Good morning, folks. Welcome to this info session on the Rural Tourism Support Program, the RTS program, hosted by State of Washington Tourism, SWT. Today's webinar will include an overview of destination development and the RTS program. SWT staff will discuss program requirements as well as the application process. This webinar will also feature a first-hand account of the RTS program in Southeast Washington, and we'll also have a Q&A component as well with the audience. Please utilize the chat in the Zoom and say hello. Let us know where you're Zooming in from today. Feel free to share your questions and comments in the chat box at any time during the webinar. You can also utilize the Q&A feature as well. Mike Moe and myself will try to get to the questions. We'll probably save those for the end of the webinar. Tamara and Kara can join in as well for those for the Q&A. But I should introduce myself. My name is Matthew Ozuna, and I am the Destination Development Manager at SWT. I manage the RTS program. You'll probably see me the most associated with this program, though Tamara will also help. Mike Moe, Tamara Rice, and Kara Jacobson will also join me on this webinar. Mike is the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Tourism Development at SWT. Tamara is the Destination Development Coordinator at SWT. She'll manage all of the destination planning and development grants funded by federal tax dollars, and she'll also help with the RTS program a bit as well. Tamara will walk us through the online application portal in just a bit. And Kara is the marketing director at Visit Walla Walla. She applied for and helped administer the RTS program in the Walla Walla Valley over a good chunk of last year and into this year. So we'll get to Kara a little later in the webinar as well. So now I want to share my screen. And if I can find my PowerPoint presentation. Let's see. Okay, folks, we'll start from the beginning. Like I said, this is an intimate conversation today. There's just a few of us, so I'm looking forward to the discussion with you all. I hope there will be plenty of questions. We have time for plenty of questions at the end of the webinar. Like I said, Mike Moe, Matthew Ozuna, Tamara Rice, and Kara Jacobson are all on this webinar today to answer your questions. Here's our agenda. I've just given our welcome and intros. We'll focus a little bit on destination foundation for folks in the tourism space to have, not just marketing, but the destination development side, product development side, destination management as well. Then we'll focus on the RTS program. We'll go into a deeper dive with Visit Walla Walla and the RTS program. And then Tamara will talk about the online portal. We have Q&A at the end, and I'll also have contact information. This webinar will be recorded, and you'll have all of the slides as well. Okay, so destination development, it can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. I'm using this updated definition from Cross Current Collective. State of Washington Tourism contracts with Cross Current Collective. We've utilized the knowledge and experience of Kristen Dahl in previous cycles of the RTS program. Kristen Dahl worked for Travel Oregon for a number of years and built up that destination development program. The broadest, the easiest definition is the one at the top. It's the act of improving the experience within a destination for visitors and residents. So this can mean a lot of things, especially for destinations that are just starting to mature with their products and services. Other destinations could be experiencing over-tourism or overcrowding and are looking more for destination management strategies on how to manage the tourism assets in their area. The RTS program utilizes a bit of everything, including this definition, but also one from the UN UNWTO tourism, and I'll get to that in my next slide. But more importantly, we take a community approach to destination development. And so it's not just hoteliers and tour operators and DMO folks, but we really include a wide cross-section of the local community. That could include government officials, academics, and even some other nonprofit groups, maybe that have to do with environmental conservation or transportation. So we're looking for a very diverse group of people to include in the RTS program and involve in community-based destination development. And we want to see this trickle throughout the community, again, not just with tourism folks, but folks from all different kinds of backgrounds, businesses, nonprofit, for-profit. So that's going to be very important for the RTS program, and you'll see that come up again throughout this webinar. The sustainable tourism definition, this is another aspect of destination development that the RTS program utilizes. Again, all destinations are different, especially in their levels of development. Some folks want more tourism. Some folks are kind of struggling with over-tourism. So the program can be tailored to the specific needs of a community and the tourism industry. So that's really important. We utilize aspects of the UN tourism's sustainable development goals. These have been around for a few years now. They're set up for some pretty aggressive goals for global tourism by 2030. Like I said, we'll utilize these per destination according to the community and industry needs, but they're just one of many aspects of the planning process that goes into the RTS program, sustainable tourism and destination development. We really want to focus on local economies. That's part of destination development and the UNWTO Sustainable Destination Development Goals, economies, the environment, and the social cultural aspects of every community. So we really want to involve local businesses. We really want to support them as much as possible. The environment is something that is on everyone's mind as of late, including destinations that have amazing outdoor recreational assets. If it has to do with trails or lakes, rivers, things of that nature, we really want to help these destinations with visitor education or conservation or any other forms of protection as it relates to destination development. We want to make sure that these assets are intact and perhaps even improved for residents and visitors. And again, going back to residents, local communities and cultures is very important. We really want buy-in from the local community. We don't like to see any friction between the tourism industry and the local community. So we try to involve these folks in the RTS program, and there's components of the program that you'll see that this is very important. We want to increase community prosperity, involvement, celebrate local culture, and make sure that people feel welcome, safe, and supported. Okay, so now let's focus on the RTS program. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the program. We can kind of dive a little bit deeper with Kara Jacobson and what we've done in Visit Walla Walla, but the program is fairly new. It's only been around since 2021, and we've gone through a few cycles now, 3. We're getting ready for the 4th, but I should be very open and honest with all of you folks that this program is not a strategic plan. It's a 10-year vision, and it helps to get people motivated and helps with organization and communication, but it's really a set of smaller action items that build momentum towards a 10-year vision. So the program brings together a wide cross-section of community members in what we'll talk about a little later that form a steering committee. And the steering committee meets throughout a number of months. There's a few phases of this program. And at the end of it, there's some grant money attached. So all of that is very important. Essentially, this is a long-term commitment. Folks really have to have the capacity, the resources to commit to at least, on the whole, probably 2 to 3 years. But then, that's only 2 to 3 years of a 10-year vision. So the long-term commitment is 10 years. So State of Washington Tourism will be with you every step of the way. We're looking to invest in a regional destination. There is, like I said, there are grant funds attached, but we're also looking for resources in the local community. Is there a cash match for the RTS grant program? Are there in-kind contributions? Are there people just willing to donate their time to help shepherd tourism development in this regional destination? So all of that will be important in the actual application. And you'll see a lot of that in Visit Walla Walla, or the Walla Walla Valley. So like I said, there's a few phases. This is an old picture of what happened, I believe, in last cycle with Visit Walla Walla. Phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Again, 6 to 8 months. It will vary depending on the destination and destination needs, planning things of that nature. But and I have a breakdown of key dates. I think at the end of the webinar, we can kind of go over those. But again, long-term commitment, really focused on organization and motivation, starting in phase 1, developing a core group of tourism stakeholders, a steering committee, and then moving to phase 2, engaging with the community. So that will include workshops. We'll have one tourism summit that can also include visitor surveys or stakeholder surveys. Phase 2, like last year, happened in the fall into the winter and even early springs, depending on the destination. There's a lot of phase 1 that happens in the summer and then into the fall. And then phase 3 happens early spring into the summer of the following year. And really, those priority projects, these action teams, after phase 1 and 2, really have up to 12 or 24 months to work on the implementation of the recommendations, the projects that come out of phase 2. So content, there will be workshops perhaps devoted on agritourism, cultural heritage, outdoor recreation. They correspond to the needs, community needs and industry needs. So once we figure out those needs or the problems, phase 3 is how we go about trying to solve those and address them. This is a destination development program for a regional destination. Here is the breakdown of tourism regions within the state of Washington. This is just an example. The Walla Walla Valley includes part of wine country. I don't know if Columbia County is considered the Palouse. Maybe it's still part of wine country, but the RTS program is really focused on a region. Now that could be a region like the Palouse or wine country, or it can be something a little smaller, like a county or a valley. So the Walla Walla Valley includes Columbia County, so we include Dayton, Washington, and the Walla Walla folks also include folks across the border into, into Oregon, Milton Freewater, Oregon. So it's one county, maybe two, and another community across the border. Other regional destinations could be one county, maybe half of another county, and maybe a quarter of another county. It just all depends. The visitor doesn't really look at political lines. They're just kind of looking maybe along transportational or geographic or just tourism offerings, kind of those lines, what kind of makes sense uh, for a visitor. Ideally, we want folks to explore these regions. We want uh, tourism product to develop in these regions so that people stay longer and spend more. They kind of move around the region and help stimulate the visitor economy throughout the entire region, not just the major city, but also kind of small towns. Okay, phase one. This will happen most likely in the summer, over the summer months. It's focusing on a core group of tourism stakeholders that will form a steering committee. So the person that is applying for the RTS program really has to do some homework and to make sure that these folks have the time and the energy to commit for several months. They need to understand the program. They need to understand what they're getting into. So that's very important. State of Washington Tourism will help you in this regard, as well as our RTS facilitator, uh, the person that we contract with that will do a lot of the heavy lifting and the organizing with you on the ground in your destination. Phase two, once we have the pre-planning essentially done and we kind of know areas of focus, we've addressed community and industry needs. We have a core group of tourism stakeholders that will form the committee that will help to promote all of these workshops, surveys, interviews, anything that will help gather information to help the program and local leaders identify priority projects. All of that will happen in phase two. This will happen over the course of a few months, I think about 3, probably most likely in the fall of this year. It will include 3 community workshops and probably 1 kickoff tourism summit that's free and open to the public. Okay, so phase 3, once all of this information is gathered, the community is being engaged, the industry and community needs have been addressed, we move into the action phase. This is where we try to develop or enhance, expand tourism assets, products in your area. We do so with small action teams that will work on priority projects. The priority projects will be funded through a grant by State of Washington Tourism. So there's grant money associated with all of these projects after you get through a few phases of the program. It's kind of the reward after going through a few months of the program. Okay, so community leadership is very important. Community engagement is very important. We're looking for in a lead applicant someone that has the capacity to take over the organization and the communication, specifically in the local community or in the regional destination. So it'll take a lot of time and energy. We're looking for that person to recruit and put together a diverse group of tourism stakeholders that will form your steering committee. This will usually be around 10 to 20 people. The steering committee in phase 1 will meet throughout the summer to get to know each other a little bit more, get to know the community industry needs, help promote workshops, surveys, interviews, anything that will help with the information gathering as part of this program. They'll also help gather more information, data, research, and will help the convener when and where appropriate. Here is a good or the winning formula of a steering committee. They could take on a lot of different roles or backgrounds. And like I said, I would, and Kara will probably attest to this, I would shoot a little high. I mean, so what I mean in terms of the number of steering committee members, because this is a long-term commitment over the course of a few months, you might have some drop off. So folks might sign up at first and then say, hey, this is too much, I have to back out. You have to plan for that or anticipate that a bit. So maybe you kind of shoot for 23 or 25, and see where this committee ends up 8 months later. But it's good to have folks from across your community, whether it's business leaders, tribal members, academics, hoteliers, elected officials is probably really important. And even if you're on the coast, perhaps even the Coast Guard. Land managers are probably a really good idea if you're in rural parts of the state and utilize outdoor recreational assets as well. Okay, Tamara will go into this a little later, but because this program is funded by federal dollars, there's a few strings attached this year. UEAI numbers is really important, excuse me. And I'll talk about contractors at the very end of this presentation. That doesn't happen until you receive the grant money. Uh, so you have a long time to kind of think about contractors and projects and how to utilize the grant funds to address the community and industry needs. But I just have to say, along with all of our other destination planning and development grants, because these are federal tax dollars, there are some heightened guidelines that we must follow. Okay, key programming dates. I maybe should have shared this with you as the first slide, but the application period opens April 1. It will last approximately 30 days. We'll take most of May to evaluate the applications. Around June 1st, award recipients or the awardee will be notified by email. And then the summer of this year, that's where phase one starts to kick off. The fall of this year, we'll move into phase two, community engagement. That's the workshops, like I talked about, the tourism summit. And then into the winter. Winter, spring is phase three. That's where we get to utilize the grant dollars to fund grant projects, priority projects, on whatever the committee decides is appropriate. You have the rest of 25 into 26 to get these priority projects done, but the tax funds or the grant funds from the Economic Development District from the federal government need to be used by the end of 2025. That's very important. Okay, we'll save questions for the end of the presentation. I will turn it over to Kara now. I'll stop sharing my screen and I will pull up Kara's PowerPoint presentation.
My photo montage of the valley.
Okay, let's see if I can share it now. Okay, Kara, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about you, Kara, and Visit Walla Walla. Why don't you tell folks a little bit more about yourself and your destination organization?
Sure. So Visit Walla Walla is the DMO for Walla Walla, southeast corner of Washington State. We have 3 full-time employees, an executive director, myself, I'm the director of marketing, and then we have a project coordinator. And so it's just really just 3 of us here in the office. We do have an agency that helps support us with some of our marketing initiatives, but my umbrella is, email marketing, social media, content creation, website, PR, social, promos, advertising. I think you all probably have a feel for what we all do. It's lots and lots of hats. So this was something I heard about as maybe a good opportunity for us. And maybe that is a path into our next question. Like, why? Why did we
Yeah,
do
why
this?
did you do it at this time? And for folks that don't know, it was at a very interesting time. You had a new executive director coming on board. Um, Walla Walla is coming out of the pandemic, like most of other destinations across the state. You were also doing some strategic planning for the city of Walla Walla in regards to tourism too.
Yeah, so
Correct?
it's been a little bit complicated, but it's
Oh,
all
did I
been,
lose?
I mean,
Oh,
I
there.
think we're working it out. So the primary reason I visit Walla Walla, but it was me because I was like, I want this, I felt there was a lot of new leadership in the Walla Walla Valley. Our new executive director, he had been here a week. Literally, it was 1 week, and then the application was due. So I had done all the front work, and I presented it to him, and he's like, yeah, let's do this. This is great. Sign, submit. And meanwhile, the city of Walla Walla had they'd been talking about it for some time, but a tourism master plan. And that was sort of percolating, but it hadn't been solidified until after we were awarded the RTS program. So, it's a little challenging, what chicken and the egg, what should come first kind of thing. But we thought, since this was looking at a 10-year vision, built into the program was the community engagement and workshops. I think this sort of took the lead, and then the city's tourism master plan organization, their consultants, were brought into the fold, and they participated in a lot of the community workshops that followed as part of the program. So, and they are still working on their finished deliverables for the city, but they have looped in a lot of the learnings from the RTS program. So I thought it was overall a net benefit. We just wanted to make sure we weren't duplicating efforts in terms of surveys for the community and everything, and just making sure we were smart about how we teed up the different elements of the program. So if you go to the next slide, I mean, this slide really exemplifies why we did it. I mean, it was a way to bring people together. It was hands down, I think, just getting people talking about stuff, hearing the same stuff, learning about things, like people like, I didn't know we had that. That's amazing. There's a lot of light bulb moments that went off during the program. So, and we were really fortunate. We had a lot of enthusiasm and participation from the community in our workshops. So, my mentality, and I think overall, is I think people want to maintain some autonomy within their organization, but I think everybody feels better when we're stronger and more efficient together. Like, collaboration is key. And, leveraging, my marketing dollars for organizations that have a smaller spend makes more sense. So these photos make me feel good. They're from, the different types of engagements we had, in terms of, there were panels, there were, small group workshops, there were presentations, and then there were some social hours where people could just informally get to know each other a bit better. So that was really a big reason why. But the leadership changes in the Valley and coming out of COVID, I think, were the strongest driver. And I think it was an opportunity with new leadership to make connections with folks within the Valley.
Yeah, smart move. And folks within the Valley, you mentioned collaboration. You just mentioned kind of the pride or enjoyment that you get when everyone came together and to work on these issues. But it all took a lot of work. So what specifically did you do? How did you help with the management of this program in your regional destination?
So for me, I was really the driver in pulling together the steering committee, and we had a pretty robust, shall we say, steering committee. We had about 25 people. But since we were looking at a larger regional area, bigger than just Walla Walla itself, we want to include the wine region of the area. And as Matt said, visitors don't care about geopolitical lines. They don't care that they've driven over into another county or another state. I mean, it's exciting, welcome to Oregon, but it's part of their experience of an area. So that took some time just to get everybody on board. People were really excited about it though, and just wanted to understand the time commitment, which was, generally once a month there was a meeting until we got to community workshops, and those were like full day events. But so I worked to pull together the steering committee, get all that organized. I worked with Cross Current, the program leader, in terms of getting background research, photos, other assets and materials so they could be smart about, get the background they needed on our region to be effective in these community workshops. And we also, as part of it, we did do a survey of the region. We did a visitor survey and a stakeholder survey, so industry partner survey. And so a lot of time in the upfront was spent sort of reviewing those types of questions and pushing it out and trying to drive up response rates. So that was through our email marketing, social media, asking our steering committee members to share it with their circles of influence. So that was a bit of work before we got into like the bright, shiny objects of the community workshop. So that took some time. And then, fortunately, I had a staff member who could help with all the logistical coordination.
Yes.
We have to partner with Matthew and the state in terms of finding venues and catering for each of the workshops. And we did a site visit before we did all of the workshops. So the state and Cross Current could sort of get a feel for the area and meet some of the key partners. So that took a little bit of time too, just to orchestrate that. It's almost like a media tour or something.
Yeah, Kara, I should jump in. I don't think I mentioned that earlier, but in terms of the facilities, the venues where these workshops and the tourism summit took place, the onus was on you to find those and to cover any and all costs. Most likely, ideally, they were free of charge. State of Washington Tourism would pay for the catering for these events. So there's a catering budget for these events that State of Washington Tourism pays for that the destination does not. So in terms of budgeting, when you were applying for this program, how did that factor into the entire process?
Honestly, we were like, we'll make it work.
Yeah, because a lot of this is free. A lot of
Yeah.
this is on the state's dime. So good
Yeah.
idea.
And to be fair, there were some, rental fees for certain locations, but I think, some community partners, for example, one of the couple of the spaces were newer to the community or are getting refreshed. And so they saw it as an opportunity to sort of have an open house and to introduce people from the Valley to their venue. So we were really lucky in terms of getting free or deeply discounted rental fees for different venues. So I think that's a way to market it when you're making the ask of different locations, like, hey, I'm bringing together probably 60 decision makers in the community who look to do community events or host groups. So it's a net positive. It's sort of a marketing tool for venues. So it was, so I think net, it was a little, it wasn't something we had budgeted for because we didn't know it was going to happen, but I'm glad it did. And I think it will pay for itself over time.
All right. Well, so budgeting is really important. Community outreach, community involvement, help from staff members and your steering committee members is important. So let's talk about more challenges. What other challenges did you face? Or maybe if you feel more comfortable, we can talk about goals and accomplishments. And I know you're in phase 3. You're in that project development or action teams in your grant project phase. So you still have some way to go. But challenges and goals so far, what do you feel good about? What advice would you give to other folks if they try to head down this same journey?
So I think the biggest piece of advice I have is whoever is really championing this within your organization needs to be organized. That's why I've got our local poet with a typewriter. You need someone who's like on top of it and can like hammer things out. And I think just a good project manager, because there's lots of people, lots of new things happening, just different balls in the air to keep track of under this umbrella. So I think it's just having someone who likes that and is good at that and can handle that. So that is probably my number one. If you're like a big idea person, you don't want to manage this. You want someone who likes lists, checklists, and I mean, that's my jam. So someone who can master a spreadsheet and stuff. So, and stay curious. That's why I put these alpacas up here from our local alpaca farm. You got to stay curious and be open to different ideas and ways of doing things. So back to like challenges, balancing community member involvement, making sure you have representation of a good cross section, not too much of one area. I mean, we're a huge wine region, but we basically had one representative on our steering committee that represented wineries. And then we had a specific workshop on wineries. More wineries showed up, on our food and farm thing. So just balancing member involvement, not letting the past be a roadblock to the future. There have been a lot of things that have been tried in this community and have failed, or just sort of withered on the vine, no pun intended, from wine region. I think it's just, you have to acknowledge those things, but also come with like, this is a new group of people and we have some starter funding to make things happen. So let's make that work. And then, the transition from having, the shepherd of cross current to us taking over the reins has been a little bit challenging. But we will, we're figuring it out. And I think that's just the nature of transitions and communications and just being very clear who's doing what. So I think overall, the net positive, though, is the connections that have been made within the community, the convening and collaborating, involving people from the entire valley, and providing them a reason to get together. And I think that was the RTS program is a reason for people to get together, and it makes them actually show up. We were lucky, our local newspaper wrote about it pretty regularly. We made sure that they were invited to all of the events. And I think we got some organic interest based upon the coverage in our local paper. So I encourage people to make sure you're not forgetting local news channels or news outlets for that. So anyway, we've already had some strong results of this. We had a new event that came together in about 6 weeks in February, and we have our priority projects underway. So be organized, be flexible, and just stay focused on where you're going.
Hurrah. Yeah, good job, Kara. I'm looking forward to what happens next in the Walla Walla Valley. Like you said, you're kind of developing your priority projects and your action teams, and you're about to kind of submit all of these projects to State of Washington Tourism in writing for grant funding with details and timelines. So that's a whole nother component of this process that is a long process over several months and really over several years. So good luck and stick with it. Okay, Tamra, are you ready?
Hi, everybody. So first, I'd like to let you know where to find the link to the application. So that'll be on the SWT's industry website on the grant landing page, and it'll be available on April 1st. So on the opening date. And I'll go ahead and share my screen with you here. So when you click on the Apply Now button, you will actually come to this screen here for program information. So it'll cover a lot of what Matt has already talked about with this program. It will also include the application timeline, and will include the FAQ for this program, the FAQ for the Wise Hive. That's what this application platform is called right now. We'll include that and also a recording of the webinar. So when you click on apply, you will be taken to, Matt, do you see the I'm a new user screen?
I do. It looks
Great.
good.
Great. So you'll be taken to this screen here and you can set up a new user account. I do want to remind you or let you know that the email that you include here will receive a 6-digit passcode. So when you click on create account, that's when you'll enter that. So once you have your account set up, you'll be prompted to create a new organization. So you'll click on the link here right above the back button. Please ignore this area that you'll see with the little blue check mark that says, are you a 501c3 nonprofit organization? This is something that the Wise Hive platform uses with GuideStar Charity Check. We are not using this at this time, and unfortunately, we can't hide it, so it is causing a little bit of confusion, but please just click on the Create New Account. So I already have an account set up, and I'll go ahead and take you into that so you can see what questions are asked. So you will be including the organization's legal name, your EIN number, the unique entity ID, the UEI, and I want to add a little bit more to what Matt was talking about. So just having a UEI number is not enough. For this program and all of the other grant programs that we have on the application portal here, you need to have a UEI active registration. I'm learning everything you need to know about UEIs right now. So anyway, go to sam.gov and enter your UEI number, and it'll take you to the area where you can find out, okay, is my entity registered? If not, register right away. It takes, from what I hear, about 7 to 10 days to receive your active registration confirmation, but sometimes they need a little bit more information. So there may be a little bit of a holdup with it. So start as soon as possible on that. And it is required. Your UBI number is required, and we'll need your organization's mailing address, the primary contact, and we would like you to add additional contacts. There's an area for up to 3 additional ones. If for some reason you don't have an additional contact, which I'd be really surprised with this program, but if there's not, just enter NA in these fields that are required. And enter any DMO information here, and you'll save your profile and continue. So it did not go to the eligibility check, but you will be going through an eligibility check on this. And for that, you're asked a couple of questions. Does your organization reside in Washington? Yes. Are you a for-profit business? For-profit businesses are not eligible to apply for this program or these grants. So I'm going to go ahead and click no and check my eligibility, and it'll continue on to your next step. So that's what this is here. So we come to the application, and I want to point out here at the top, you'll see these 3 little people. If you click on that, you can add collaborators here, and keep in mind, you always need to have 1 lead applicant. You can add collaborators, and you can remove them if somebody is no longer on in the organization, or you want to have them be the lead applicant and take you off of the lead applicant role, you can do that as well. So the first question, so I want to show you, this is divided up into sections. This is a long application for folks. Please make sure that you save your section before you move on to the next one. And then you can come back in, you can leave the application, you can come back in and pick up where you left off. So you don't have to do this all in one sitting. So here's the first one. Looks like I've already entered some information here. You'll be entering your regional destination. This is where I was saying save your draft and exit. You can do that, and then you can go out and then come back in. Next, we'll need your application details. This is a little redundant, but we do need you to complete this information on top of what you've entered into the profile information. Well, we're asking what your role is. If it's other, you can enter that here. So here's the first question on the application. It's regarding the steering committee. There's a little bit of information here that we need to gather from you. You'll be uploading a spreadsheet with the steering committee's member contact information, which includes their name, organization title, email, etc. We also are requiring letters of support from each of your organizations on the steering committee. There's, I had to enter two questions here because the upload only allows you to upload 10. So if you have more, you can upload them down here in this next area. And then are there any of the key stakeholders that are not able to serve on the committee? And you can enter that information here. Your project readiness. There's questions here that you'll be required to answer. There is a word maximum for these questions, so you'll want to be aware of that. And regional profile questions. I know we're going through this pretty quick, so you can also reach out to us and we could share some more information on the questions. The application is available, like we said, on April 1st, and you can actually review the application before you even set up your account. So you could review it and save that for your information if you're just kind of wanting to see, okay, what are the questions that are being asked? Your program customization questions here. So we come to the supporting documents, the fun part here. So this is where we'll need your EIN verification. This is your determination letter, the IRS determination letter determining nonprofit status, tax exempt status. So this is not just verification that you have an EIN number. Your UEI, we've learned through the first couple of applications here and learned that we needed to give more information on this. For the UEI, here's some more information for you so you can get in there and figure out what you really need. Your UBI confirmation, this will be your business license. And we also need a signed current W-9 form, and you can find the form here. Here's a link to Washington State Department of Revenue for your UBI and also a link to sam.gov if you need to ask a question or request a replacement for your determination letter from the IRS. Here's a phone number here. I've learned that the replacement for the determination letter is called an affirmation letter. So just to help you with that. We'll also need the organization's legislative districts. So enter those here. Here's a link to find out that information. Area for optional documents. You can add several extra documents here if you choose. These would be just documents that will provide additional context for the review committee. And letters of recommendation are optional, but we do encourage you to upload them, and you can upload as many as 5 here. And we come to the agreement and signature. We do want to remind you that this is just an agreement to the criteria of this program. This is not a contract. If you are a successful applicant, you'll receive a contract to sign. And we'll save this and exit. Make sure that you take the time to review your application and have another set of eyes on it, because once you submit it, it is not an editable form at that point. So you can review it and we can go back, or you can submit it from there. Once you click submit, of course, it's not going to go through for me because I haven't entered this information. But once you click submit, if it does go successfully, because you've completed the information, you'll receive a confirmation email and you can get back into your application at that point. If it doesn't go through, like here, you'll see the red mark here. You can go in and edit your questions. And I think that's about it for this. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. I want to make sure that I've covered everything here. I think so. If you have any questions on it, I'll put my email address in the chat box. And please just reach out and ask me any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thanks, Tamara. Well done.
Thanks.
Okay, folks, Kara, Tamara, and Mike are here to answer any of your questions. I know there's a small group today. If you have any questions, you can put those in the Q&A or the chat, or I know this is a very large and complex program with grant funding attached to it. If you raise your hand, I can even unmute you and you can just voice your question that way. So Jen, George, Angie, anyone, Lene, questions for Tamara, Kara, Mike, or myself? Okay. Seeing none? Not at this time. Okay, thanks, George. Well, folks, again, this is a huge commitment of time and resources, not only for you as a potential applicant, but also for State of Washington Tourism. So we're happy to help you think or strategize how best to kind of go about applying for this program and then administering the program if you are selected as the regional destination. Oh, I see a question from Lene. Letters of support from each steering committee member. Yes, a letter of support. Essentially, that letter of support is a way for us to better understand that you, as the applicant or the convener, have talked to these steering committee members. They know what they're getting themselves into. They know that there's a good amount of time and energy needed to dedicate for the program, and to make sure that they're committed for at least phase 1 and phase 2. So this summer into this fall. And usually by phase 3, once the information is gathered and the steering committee and the regional destination are kind of headed in one direction for destination development, and they're focused on up to 3 priority projects. That's a good time for folks that were on the steering committee to jump off or to kind of sign back up and commit to these priority projects, which could take up to 24 months to complete. The letters of recommendation. So other letters of recommendations that I think you're getting at, Lene, is letters of recommendation from outside of the steering committee. So folks that could be elected official or other influential folks in the community that can vouch for your organization or this entire process, that this program would do good work in the community to develop tourism, support community X, Y, and Z needs, industry needs. So yeah, the extra letters of recommendation are a good idea, especially from mayors, representatives, academics, other nonprofits that maybe aren't part of your steering committee. Okay. Any other questions? I know that was a lot of information today, folks. I really tried to kind of skim over my slides so we would have time for Tamara and Kara. If you have additional questions, I'm happy to kind of sit down on a one-on-one meeting with you, and we can kind of go over the program in detail and how it would work in your regional destination. So again, application period opens April 1, and we'll go until the end of April. And we're looking to notify the regional applicant or the regional destination sometime in probably early June at the latest, maybe in late May. Okay, so we'll see you again soon. Thank you for joining us on this webinar, and contact Tamara, Kara, or Mike or myself if you have follow-up questions.